Okay, now the difference between these two high quality ratios and work capacity ratios, or conditioning, if you want to call it, is you have to realize they're both again under 10 seconds. Now here's where the difference becomes. High quality ratios is 2.5 to 5 minutes rest, and work capacity ratios are at 45 to a minute 30. This is a conditioning effect. This is a head quality neurological skill development in this ALACTIC system. Now the difference also then goes along in to get a high quality effect. You're essentially going to get 6 to 8 reps is a common range for people. If you're really out of shape, you may get less, or if it's a full 10 seconds, you may get less. If it's only 3 seconds of work, you may get more. One thing you may want to look at is an article I wrote, Speed and Skill Optimization. You can Google that and get it, and it'll give you a definitive guide based upon the quality of reps. Now, there's more reps in the conditioning, obviously, because of the ALACTIC phase and its ability to repeat effort, but it's not high quality effort or skill development or speed development or agility training. This is more for capacity. Now you can use agility training for ALACTIC conditioning. There's no doubt about that. So then this is the running, and the difference is the sets that are under 10 seconds are you can push it as many as 12 to 16 sets total, because and the same over here, you can even do more if you choose to do more in your lifting. The difference is running is a global response for the whole body in both these, where lifting may just be, let's say it's a posterior chain or an upper body movement. And again, rest is important, and if there's no rest, this work capacity, if there's limited rest, essentially the high quality ratio becomes work capacity, and if there's no rest in the work capacity as prescribed, you can't reproduce maximal effort, and basically this zone becomes aerobic, and you're not training the desired qualities of repeated sprintability for after the game. Now, there's other zones. They are obviously important, but not in a off-season training program of mine. Why? Just because I told you the results that we get are basically we stay out of lactate until your sport would demand it. So for example, if it's a hockey player at the end of the summer, we would go to lactate training for that hockey player, mainly fast glycolysis, and maybe work a little bit of slow glycolysis at that level. But the reps, the rest periods, you can see those things all differentiate themselves by rest, and you're going to have to understand the sport. So for example, a shot putter, a hammer thrower would probably rarely ever get to this point in their training. There may be times when you do, and there are times where I may have them do it, but ultimately it's not the focus. Now, the aerobic oxidative block, obviously you can pause to, I'm not going to read through these, but you can pause to see what transpires. Ultimately the heart rate between 110 and 160. Now, in my athletes, the heart rate between 110 and 160, I will actually know my lactate threshold or have an estimated time frame. And now I often use aerobic for download days or download weeks, if you want to say download workouts, or if the athlete's overtrained at some point where they shouldn't be, I often default to these. Now, the understanding of the bioenergetic integration dynamics is that, remember, the intensity and duration should be the focus point of that day. They should not overlap. This is mainly an off-season program, okay? But the goal is so that the biochemical changes in the body don't develop altogether, because you will not get the maximum adaptation qualities, as we've talked. This is why the block method can be controlled biochemically with the training, is where you can do many different types of movements. It doesn't necessarily matter, but in a certain time frame of 2 to 3 weeks, the block method is optimal. I often find 2 in advanced athletes, because the third one, unless you have plenty of time, is maybe not going to get much return on your investment. So we go to the next phase. But it ultimately depends on how long your summer schedule is, or your off-season schedule. But you are able to develop these qualities at a very, very advanced high level. Remember, the goal of the system is to get all the organs, all the structures of the metabolism, grouping of cells, to adapt to the same stressor. You will get the ultimate adaptation in your body if this is done. You have to realize results will be deep adaptations with less negative stress response. Look, almost all workouts have positive and negative. They also have a negative result in some form or capacity, whether they're creating oxidative stress, whether they're creating some form of poor hormones. But the goal is to get the greatest adaptations with the work that you put in with the minimal negative effect. Okay? And again, pulling the athlete in multiple directions is not optimal for the results. And then we've talked about the triathlon powerlifting meet example. Okay, now the biggest thing here is for athletes, training at high speeds or intensive loads leads to the largest change in the nervous system, from the CNS, myelination, sarcoplasmic reticulum site, the point of calcium release, facilitate muscular contraction, myoglobin, creatine phosphate content. Use high speeds methods within biochemical parameters of the organism. Lift your weights as fast as you can, at least on the concentric phase. If you want to put triphasic concepts in, you can. Work is the key adaptation for all sports. We know this. You can pause this and read the rest of it, but the more strained metabolically and hormonal environment suppresses homeostasis response and has a deleterious effect on workloads intended to develop basic athletic abilities. Conflicting responses, which are typical of mixed training among high-performance athletes, lead to a decline in general aerobic abilities. This is Dr. Ishern, and he is probably the world's foremost expert on block training. I would recommend his books if you want to dig into the block training methods. Parasympathetic response. Now, again, I think I've talked about this, but there's a difference between exercise and training. Training, you get a parasympathetic response. Exercise, you get a little to no parasympathetic response. Disturbances in the biochemical homeostasis may be achieved without drastically increasing volume intensity by programming their distribution in the training cycle. So the hopes is that you want to get the minimum amount of training to get the most changes and adaptations in your training blocks. So instead of keeping in mind just a straight linear, you often find greater results in a spasmodic or a stepped approach is beneficial. I think I've essentially already covered the concept of functional training. May not have enough specific area stress, or it stresses the whole body too much, and there's not enough hormones to go around to get the greatest adaptation possible post-workout. The ALACTIC development, you can pause this when I'm done speaking, but you just have to understand with the ALACTIC development, in training under 10 seconds for a majority of your training systems, you will create a greater storage, the ability to store ATP and to reproduce strength, power, and speed performances if you use this concept. Okay, so the one model that I do use often, it seems to work. It can be switched, but I will tell you here's my typical plan. I do speed, agility, and quickness training. So on a Monday, let's say day 1, I'll do 7-second drills of speed, agility, or quickness. So when I say speed, I mean, let's say a drill such as top end speed. I'll also do the next one. I could do accelerations, pulling a sled. Another type of agility, I do agility drills that last 7 seconds. Then the next phase, I'll go into the weight room and do power and strength movements. And then at the end, I will do a 10-second conditioning day. Notice that everything this day is under 10 seconds. And actually on my shifted undulated model that we use is a 7-second day. We'll go lower, upper, lower, upper, lower, upper, and actually do a full day body here, so that then they have multiple days to recover. If you want to know why this works, you can look up the Triphasic training book, and you should be able to understand why the shifted model works so well and why I use this method. Now, the upper-lower concept would be that I train legs one day, and I train the upper body this day. I'll get a hormone response on both days, obviously, but by training upper body this day, it helps with and aids recovery from day one, so that you're ready to do lower on day 2. Now, this is a max effort loading day, these 2 days, and this is high volume day. And trust me, you do 40 sets of 10 seconds, maximal efforts, and the body is conditioned in the ALACTIC system, to say the least. Now, remember, from the previous slides, I will do 6 to 8 reps of agility or speed. Usually it's a 6 if I'm going to the weight room, and then I will with the high quality rest of 2 to 2.5 minutes, and then the next few sets of power and strength. So let's say the next 12 after the speed development. So I did 6 here, I'll do 12 there with high quality rest, doing prehab in between. And then after the first 12 to 16 of the lifting that day with high quality rest, I will switch to 45 seconds to a minute 30 rest, and do the rest of the power or strength if there's any movements, and 10-second conditioning that day. The same goes with this. This is just another option of the shifted undulated model. The only thing is we reduce the time. Throwers, linemen may prefer this one over the other one, but what you may do is do the 5, 7, and 10-second days at the beginning of your training blocks, and get to here if you keep on getting stronger during this time frame. So you can manipulate the time. You can also just flat load it across the board, and this is the one I spoke of the baseball players using, and got 12 to 16 pounds on a number of them in the course of a training cycle. So again, this could be used for maximal let's say body tissue response, to put on muscle and bone density and so forth. Now again, remember, so let me show you how to integrate this. What I just showed you above here with any of these days, speed, quickness, 10-second conditioning, those are your 3 main components. The highest quality rest, the first 12 to 16 sets of high quality. So I can go as many as 6 sets of agility. My athletes could do more. I actually save it. We'll do agility drills, we can do acceleration drills, or we can do top end speed training. Then the next, we go into the gym, we hit 10 sets. Most people will hit 8 to 10. I found my athletes can go as many as 14 to 16, maybe even up to 20 with high quality reps, and still produce the same efforts. For example, during this phase, let's say you do a back squat and an RDL, and then after these 8 to 10 sets, you will do your assisted lifts, which then kicks over to the capacity phase. So your workout now, your rest period's less. Now, remember, coming back here to the 2.5 minutes, you can do some prehab in between all of these. So you're not just standing around. Coaches hate to see people standing around. And then here, you're going to do more work, and you can still do your prehab in here. And my athletes will go up to 70 sets, doing assisted exercises, conditioning, and many of these athletes are extremely conditioned after these training blocks.